My Wi-Fi is not working.
They fixed the
Didn't
Verizon.
automatically
app.
connect.
There you go, all right.
Mine automatically connects whenever.
All right.
I'm normally just
Waiting on Kevin to see
Oh.
if he is.
Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to call to order the Monday, June 13, 2022 Harpers Ferry Town Council meeting to order. All members of the council are physically present with the exception of Jim Jenkins. Before I get into approval of the agenda and the rest of the agenda items, I want to return to something that I noticed that we have not been doing for probably several years because of COVID and with the Zooming things. And I want to continue to, as when I was mayor before, to honor the freedoms that we have in this country by pledge allegiance to the flag. And in a minute, I'll ask all of us to stand up and pledge the flag. And what I would like to do, Chris and Christian, with the landmarks, if you guys meet in here with your meetings, the planning commission, if you guys meet in here at the landmarks, I think it would be nice for you guys also. I'm not going to tell you and order you to do that, but I just think that we have so many things in the United States that we should all be very thankful for, and the oppressive countries that are around the world. And we have a lot of rights, and I think sometimes we forget those rights and put them aside. But would you join me in the pledge?
If I may, Chair,
Sure.
if we can also recognize that for some people, the pledge is a difficult thing, and that there are challenges to our rights in this country as well.
Sorry.
And that for those listening, to just acknowledge that that's something that
Absolutely.
goes in this
And
country.
by no means am I forcing anybody to join me standing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much for that. Was that mine, Laura? Okay. Approval of the
Do you
agenda?
want me to read the?
Yeah, absolutely, I knew that.
Okay, you knew that.
I never see- You're probably gonna forget it.
Checking on me, okay. Until further notice, the Corporation of Harpers Ferry government and deliberative bodies will hold meetings and or hearings virtually through Zoom webinar, which provides for public participation during the public comment period when applicable and when posted on the agenda. Alternatively, the public may watch meetings by YouTube, live stream, or listen by telephone. These options comply with the Open Governmental Meetings Act.
Thank you, Christian. I am suggesting that we move item 4C, Roman numeral 9, 10, 11, and 12 to the last business. Because just the nature of those items, I believe we are going to have to go into executive session. So again, that's 4C, 9, 10, 11, and 12. We will place that following number 7. If there's any objection to that, I'd like a motion from the floor to approve that.
So move.
I have a second on the motion to. Thank you, Christian. Discussion on the motion to amend the agenda. Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion? Thank you. Public comment, I understand Ed is online.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, so I can hear you. If I can hear you, Ed, I think everybody else can.
Okay, good. Okay, tonight I'm speaking as the chair of the Harpers Ferry Bolivar Historic Town Foundation. As many of you know, the foundation's mission advances the historic preservation, promotion, and beautification of our towns for the enjoyment and benefit of all. And that part of that includes sharing some of the lesser known local history outside of the themes covered by the national park. And last year, we introduced a self-guided walking tour that features some of the notable African Americans that lived on Camp Hill and in the west end of Harpers Ferry. The brochure was made available at B&B's, the CVB Visitor Center, and the Park Bookstore. The brochure has been very popular, and our initial supply is nearly exhausted, so we'd like to reprint the brochure. The total cost will be $2,500 for a total run of 5,000 copies. The CVB has committed $500 towards the reprint, and we are asking that the town chip in an additional $500. The foundation will raise the remaining $1,500 needed. So we appreciate your consideration of the request. I think Chris Craig has a hard copy of the brochure to share if there are any of you who haven't seen it. And two related items to note: that on June 25th, we'll host a guided walking tour that highlights some of the stories from the brochure. That event will start at 10 a.m. and conclude with an ice cream social at First Zion Baptist Church. And tickets are available at our website, historicharpersferry.org. And over the coming year, the foundation will be conducting research to develop a companion Black History Heritage brochure for Bolivar. So thank you for your time and for your consideration of our request.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Ed.
All right. What's the date of that ice cream? That's the most important thing.
25th.
25th.
5th of June, yeah.
Okay.
At Zion, right back here.
I wonder if we're gonna have peach. Okay, do we have anyone else on the public? I don't think we do. Okay. Mayor's announcements, I have two. The past several weeks have not been kind to us in Harpers Ferry. During that time period, we lost three very remarkable, kind, and solemn men. They were true gentlemen, and the first to leave us was Arthur Stewart. Arthur was the caretaker at Harper Cemetery. He lived with Irene, who passed probably 3 years ago. They lived in the caretaker house for, I believe, 50 years. And he was a remarkable gentleman. I remember him showing me a picture of his high school football team, and he wore actually a leather helmet. So that'll give you some idea of how tough Arthur Stewart was. He was, like the other two, a true gentleman. And his passing, I think, was difficult for a lot of people in Harpers Ferry. The second that we lost was Tom McCloin. Most of you may not know Tom. Tom is a longtime property owner with his wife, Patty. They live next door, 2 doors away from Patty Morris up on Church Street. Tom is a former Catholic priest many years ago. He married a nun. And Patty, they spent their entire life living in New York, in Brooklyn, and Patty's family has owned that house on Church Street for generations. Tom was another remarkable individual, a true silent gentleman, and he will be missed. The last loss we had was just a few days ago with Lloyd Reeler. Lloyd was another silent gentleman living up on Putnam. A longtime resident of Harpers Ferry, just a true friend, a real quiet gentleman. And if you got to know Lloyd, he had the kind of a personality that would stick with you. So those three individuals are going to be missed by an awful lot of people. And I just wanted to publicly recognize those three. The other thing I have is I have a letter from Swan. It's their update. And I'm going to ask the recorder to kindly read this letter, Kevin, for the record, if you would do that.
May 10th, 2022. Dear Mayor Vaughn, there has been a lot of excitement at the Hilltop House Hotel site since the state of West Virginia granted the Hilltop the state's first tourism development district in August 2021. From January to the end of April 2022, the old hotel was disassembled with an intricate division of the materials. The original stones were stacked according to where each section they originated on the old structure. Our local stonemason, Mark Cullinane, has been palletizing these historic stones for reuse on the hotel's facade, turret, retaining walls, pathways, and gardens. Other historical resources, 1920s doors, transoms, and wrought iron fencing, were salvaged for reuse as well. The remaining hotel components were divided into categories for recycling and landfill diversion. 37.2 tons of scrap metal and 7.4 tons of concrete were taken to their corresponding yards for recycling of materials. Currently, the historic armory houses are being restored. The Yellow House at 500 East Ridge Street has new standing seam metal roofing, and a new roof deck is being constructed as it was historically. The Mills Group is in the process of creating the exterior elevations for each of the historical structures. Once design is completed, local contractors will be seen restoring windows, doors, porches, and updating other exterior elements. Landscape design is in process as well. We continue to develop details within the main hotel and spa. 2 full-sized model rooms were constructed in a warehouse where the team is identifying furnishings and finishes. Seeing this progress is translating our vision into reality. We thank you for the support. Laurel Zimanski and the Swan team.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate that. You know, I think I'll just do a footnote on that and say that probably most of us seated around this table are looking forward to, not only us, but many Harpers Ferry residents and Bolivar and Jefferson County and state of West Virginia people are truly looking forward to groundbreaking. And that'll be a momentous event for us. And I want to thank Laurel. I know she's probably listening, or maybe not, for preparing these updates. And I've asked her to do that every single month so that the residents of Harpers Ferry know exactly what's going on in time frames. And as she garners additional information, she'll be sharing that with us also. Okay, let's go to approval of minutes 2A, regular meeting, April 11. Any corrections, additions, deletions to April 11 minutes? Hearing none, a motion to approve. I have a motion to approve from Chris. Do I have a second? I have a second from Laurel. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? Regular meeting, May 9. Additions, deletions, corrections. Hearing none, motion to approve. Motion from Chris.
Sorry.
What did I do?
Laurel had some corrections that she sent over today
On May 9?
that I forwarded to Storm.
Yeah,
And
did you receive, I didn't send it around to everybody. I can read what they are
Which one,
well,
Storm?
on May 9th.
There was some minor correction, there were some minor suggestions, but he incorporated them. You did incorporate them,
Yes.
I looked at them.
Yes.
So I'm not sure where we're at. So do we have, for the record, are we going to make some corrections, or are we going to approve as is?
I can read what the corrections were.
Okay.
Pop up that email. Correction 1, pardon me, was in item 3A. Let me pull up minutes to read. Exactly. To read, parking is at 63%, and it is hoped that it will catch up as the weather improves. The first correction. Removed from it a sentence fragment that read, pulling back FY 22 and 23 revenue numbers. Item 2C, segment that begins, the town has verified that the ARPA funds, comma was removed so that it reads without the comma. And then under the water department item, that was shortened, water department for the standard operating procedures for, help me out, Laurel, this is
Leak
for the
adjustment.
leak adjustment.
Oh, 5, section 5.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
It reads, now reads, the Water Commission will assist the water clerk in developing a standard operating procedure for assessing and processing leak adjustment requests for customers. And then under new business C, the word "that" was removed from the paragraph. The sentence now reads, and the CNO Park will be applying for, and goes on from there. Those are the corrections.
Okay, these were all on May 9.
Correct.
Any others?
I approve I make a motion to approve the amended minutes for May 9th.
Okay, I have a second on the
Second.
motion. We have a second from Chris. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor? Okay, next minutes are special meeting, April 19, corrections, additions. Motion? We have a motion to approve from Storm. We have a second from Chris. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor? April 19th is approved. Treasurer's report.
Sealy Mayor and Town Council, the financial report you have this evening for the end of April 2022, which is 83% of our fiscal year. In the general fund, our budgeting income less our carried forward amount of $1,094,000 is $1,160,757. So our operating income of $971,204 as of the end of April represents 83.7% budgeted for the year. Our operating expenses are approximately 65% of budgeted for the year. The waterworks, when we remove from the income the soft cost reimbursement on line 41 and the ARPA funding on 421, that brings our unrealized income to 70% of the budgeted revenue. Revenue line 461 customer billings is at 69.5%, and that is still lower than targeted. You will see in the budget submission, budget revisions and submissions later in the meeting that we are making some adjustments to fine tune that line, and probably take a look at that a little more closely as we get to the very end of the fiscal year and our summer months start to pick up. On the other hand, we anticipate those increases to help out. So our operating expenses are at 62.5% of budget. Any questions on the financials for April?
I move to approve the financial reports for the general town report and the water report for April 2022.
Second on the motion. Chris, discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve?
So the next item that you have is the budget revision for fiscal 22, revision number 3, which is up here because you also have to approve the items over the purchasing threshold, and there are some items in there that are being addressed in the revision. So I will try to highlight those as I review this on a high level. This is the proposed revision 3 to our current fiscal 22 budget. this point in the fiscal year for the general fund, we have adjusted in expenses and income to reflect what has occurred and moved income or expenses forward into fiscal '23 as appropriate. This has been reviewed in detail with budget and finance, so I'm just gonna review the highlights. The brick colored column on the left, if you're looking at this colored chart, the brick colored column on the left is our current budget, the pink column is current income as of May 25 and expenses as of April 30, and the proposed revision is in the green column. For income, B&O tax, sales, and municipal tax have been increased to reflect collections realized thus far. Liquor and wine tax seem to be settling at about $10,000 annually. Motel motel tax, fines, fees, and court costs and parking meter revenue have been decreased to reflect receipts that we've had thus far. In the expense area, most of the items you see have been reduced to reflect annual expenses and items set for purchase or implementation that did not occur or that we don't anticipate to occur. Some of these have been moved into fiscal '23, as our plan would allow, such as streets and transportation at the bottom, 977. You can focus again at the bottom. The accumulation of our actual operating expense reductions have allowed us to increase our reserve in general government, line 975. The increase in 976 public safety reflects the payout for the 2020 police cruiser and the 2022 new police cruiser. Both of those items are on your checks for approval in the next item on our agenda. Overall, this budget revision adjustment is a reduction of $37,500 for the last iteration of fiscal '22. We will be revising fiscal '23 in July. Budget and Finance has reviewed a preliminary revision with income and expenses falling into a pattern similar to this final fiscal '22 revision. We were able to include the general fund portion of the administrator position that has been evolving, contract engineering and design work for town hall, contracted assistance for the comprehensive plan and BZA and planning commission support, and matching funds for High Street and the Armory Canal Trail projects. Any questions on the proposed revision?
Is there anything alarming in here, Toby?
I would say not.
You don't think so?
Yeah.
No, we thought it looked very good.
Guys, even the revenue reductions were modest.
Yeah, and really, it's just fine tuning where we are. We didn't anticipate that the police car was gonna be here now. We thought it was gonna be in '23, so we had to push that back, and so just kind of moving that stuff around.
And then one revenue source that's down the most is parking, which is not, we had a big number last year.
And we didn't know what was gonna happen with
No.
that, so,
It was
yeah.
COVID.
But when we reviewed '23, we kept our numbers conservative, so, yeah.
I was a bit surprised at hotel motel tax, just any,
Not super strong, you know, I mean, I think if you think a little bit about the change in how people are offering accommodations, you know, traditional bed and breakfast used to have several rooms, and now maybe they're operating in a different fashion, and they're not offering quite as much, so the income might not be, and even though maybe we have more, you know, there's,
We've lost
I don't
properties.
know.
We've lost properties. Yeah, since COVID, we lost, I had counted up to 1.9 properties. People moved out of town, sold their house, and the house no longer is a thing we do.
There's, you know, and travel is different now, I think, you know. We are working through, with Airbnb and with the other, platforms to, they are collecting the room occupancy tax and remitting it to us. We are tracking that to try to see that it, you know, once we get into next fiscal year, we'll kind of take a look and say, okay, does it make sense that we're getting the money that we're getting, or are we still missing it somewhere? Because the property owner is still responsible to remit that to us if they have booked something outside the platform. So Patty's done a really good job at explaining that to people and helping people with that. Most people have been very understanding and cooperative and ask questions and, you know, trying to do their part. We'll just do an analysis on that later to make sure we're not missing something.
Is it possible just to get a count of the number of the B&B businesses that contributed income like 1 year over, like a year over year, just the number, no names?
Sure, we
Just
can
to
do that,
see.
yeah, Patty has a good track of that, so we should be able to pull something like that.
That'd be amazing, you know,
Yeah.
if we could see it over 3 or 5 years, even better, but just to see if this is a trend.
We'll try to do that towards the end of the summer.
And there's another thing going on too, is all of our Airbnbs have really picked up, and a lot of people have gotten into the business. We feel it as a B&B owner, we're feeling, the competition.
There's just, the market's getting very saturated.
Okay, I understand we have to approve this,
Yeah.
a resolution.
Yep, I move to approve, I move to approve the fiscal year 2022 general budget, division number 3 as presented.
Just calling for a
Yes,
roll call.
Kevin needs to call
Kevin, you
roll
need to do a roll call on this one.
Chris Craig,
I vote aye.
Storm D. Costanzo,
Aye.
Laurel Drake,
Aye.
Christian Petroconis,
Aye.
and I vote aye, Mayor.
Aye. And so we'll fill in the.
Kevin, I just gave him the original, he's gonna fill that out for me, so I can take it to the state auditor's office.
You guys are incredible.
Done it, and messed it up a few times.
You don't see the mistakes.
All
We
right,
know better now.
so we're done with all the financial?
There we have, the last item there is to approve
Oh, yeah.
your monthly items, for invoices and purchases over the purchasing threshold, so. You have, I have them here specifically if anybody wants to review any of the invoices,
Just so you're aware, the Bank of Charlestown is the loan we had on the last year's police car, we're paying it off.
right.
And the Haley Ford South you see there is the brand new car that just arrived.
What's the excavation?
There's, two
Good question.
invoices here for that, and, for work that was done in April and May, for, construction in Bolivar, and then it looks like new meter placement on Washington Street in a couple locations up by the church. There was some valve work that was done, steel plate placement as well.
See, it's, Chris, it's, we have an excavator, but it's a lightweight, so it can't
Yeah,
handle meat and spill.
Okay, thank you.
Heavy equipment.
What's the payment to Region 9 for?
Region 9, that's your, $5,000 matching funds for the stormwater study.
Okay.
Yes.
Mhm.
We thought it was gonna be 10, so
That's right.
Yeah.
take note of that.
I move to approve the fiscal year 2023 purchasing threshold guidelines as presented, effective July 1, 2023.
Second.
Wait, those aren't the guidelines, these
Oh.
are your checks that are over.
Oh,
These are the
shoot. Well, I'm so excited about the
I
purchasing
know.
threshold.
Coming up soon.
All right, we're gonna unwind that and then let's go on a rewind. Do you need to read, does he need to read?
Dude, somebody just needs to approve the invoices for over the threshold.
Say that.
I move to approve the checks over the purchasing threshold as submitted.
Okay, second on the motion, second from Chris, discussion on the motion to approve. All those in favor of the motion? That's 6-0, Kevin.
Now the purchase.
After the-
That's why I turned on.
All right. Thank you, Debbie. John Brown, Chief Brown.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Hey, Chief.
Just want to give you the monthly report for May. We had no accidents for the month, we had no call-outs for the month, and we had no assist. We had 39 citations issued and 85 incidents. I would just like to say thank you for the purchase of the new vehicle that is needed for us to continue to provide a patrol in our community. And as always, it's a pleasure working with Mayor Vaughn. Meeting with him weekly, we're able to address some concerns and continue to move the department forward in a positive way. an image for the community to serve. Any questions or anything that you would like to address with me at this?
Chief, it's Christian Petchkonis. It's a parking question. We were in the process of hiring a parking attendant, someone to enforce parking. I understand our candidate has passed away, so are you working on some other options?
Yes, sir. I've reached out to a couple other people that are retired and possibly looking to make a little extra revenue in their retirement. Once I hear back from them, hopefully we'll be able to move forward and make a selection for you guys to vote on and approve for me to move forward on that.
Great. And just to be aware, in case we need to move on that quicker, we may have a special meeting in the near future. We could stick that on the agenda. So if you can keep it with Melissa updated with us, and then we'll put that on the agenda. But we want this person as soon as possible.
Yes, sir. I will do that.
All right.
Chief, do you plan on hanging around for the items
At the end.
at the end?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I will be in the
Okay,
that session.
okay, thanks, Chief.
Chief, this is Chris Craig. I had I was very curious about the gunshot that's on your list for the past month. What did that involve?
Okay, so occasionally we get calls for gunshots in the area. It's nothing in town. We live along the ridge there, so a lot of it we believe is across the way. That's the echoing sound off the mountainside, off the ridges are what we're hearing in our area. But as far as any shots in the area, we have not been able to pinpoint or locate anyone that's doing it on the West Virginia side.
Understood. Thank you.
It's just us crazy people on the mountain, Chris.
Shooting off some steam.
What's the other mountain now?
It's nonstop up there.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chief.
Yes, sir.
You've got the OCO report in front of you. Kevin is obviously been very, very busy. And if there's any questions, let me know and I'll get them to Kevin. But I think this is pretty self-explanatory, his report.
I might respond to one on there that he mentioned the parking area on West Ridge. Planning, the applicant had told planning to put that on hold. I think he's reinvestigating other materials to use. So
Which one is that, Chris?
that is the
Is that false?
Changing the stone driveway to concrete.
1227 West Ridge Street.
Yeah, that's date 4/4/23.
On that second page.
Okay, so that's on hold.
That's on hold until he deals with his contractor and finds more about alternate materials.
Okay, got it.
I'd like to just say that I thought the OCO did an excellent job filling out this very detailed report, and it was very informative.
You're here.
Good. And a lot, and I see complete. That's good.
Okay, Christian, I guess this is yours for the next hour and a half.
It's gonna go fast.
Okay, where are we? Of course, oh, gosh, okay. All right, so the first thing, discussion action regarding, well, let me just talk about some general things before I get into all the budget items that we have there. There are some things that we discussed in our last regular budget and finance committee. We discussed the wage scales for both the waterworks and the office staff. We have put that off until we did some additional study. So we will get it resolved soon. And any members of the Budget and Finance Committee, you can add on, okay, please, it's not just me. And infrastructure administrator duties, that was on the agenda last meeting, and we felt that there needed a little bit more work on that issue as well. So hopefully we can get into this in the next few weeks on that. The storm here brought up the CSX Quiet Zone. This is a program, go ahead, it's your baby.
Oh.
He knows it well.
Yeah, so it's picking up on something from 2016 of having Potomac Street crossing designated by the Federal Railroad Administration as a quiet zone, which would reduce the need for trains to sound their horns in Harpers Ferry by 50%, which would be a benefit to much of the town, including the name Hilltop Hotel. And it would require upgrading the crossing, which would also improve safety for the Armory Canal Trail along Potomac Street Extended. And I did have an initial discussion with Swan about potential ways to fund it, as well as the project and engineering studies. And the next steps will be looking at the regulations and information, not just from CSX, but from the state regulatory agency. And then the formal step will be approaching the FRA.
And then the next item was the Amtrak ADA's program. Apparently this is from a few years ago. I noticed the letter was from Mayor Bishop. This is having to do with the fact that the Amtrak stations, many of them are not compliant with ADA standards. So, is there any more?
Yeah, that's the gist. There's a consent order where that demands that the FRA upgrade about over 100 stations, including Harpers Ferry Station. And that is, it's up in the air. Where in the queue Harpers Ferry is. We were contacted in 2019 to advise about historic resources that might be affected. I don't know if any information was provided. There's no record of that happening. But we can't expect that to come up. And when contacting the FRA, I will ask them about that as well. And it's possible that what's happening that we might do with Quiet Zone could be rolled into it, although who knows where we are in their queue, since they have 100-some stations to do.
One, I might mention, we need to be on the watch for that when there is the possibility that could include bicycle accessibility, easing the passage of bicycles through the tunnel at the same time. And so far I have not had much luck directly getting in touch with Amtrak or through the Park Service, but I think we ought to watch for that.
Yeah, well, yeah, and if you would like to be involved as things go forward, especially as it will tie with the Armory Canal Trail, that would be a huge benefit.
Yeah.
And I just had two more things that even the Budget and Finance Committee are not aware of, but there's been, they're aware of it, it just wasn't in our last meeting, but there was a request for a proposal from a structural engineer for the town hall to evaluate our building structurally. So we'll be dealing with that in our regular meeting on June 28th, Budget and Finance Committee. And also we have a request for proposal from the Mills Group to redesign our first floor space downstairs. So again, we will deal with that on June 28th. Put it out there, we're working on things. All right, so back to the regular part of the meeting. Discussion action, item I. First item, discussion action regarding the proposed approval of fiscal year 2023 purchasing threshold guidelines. And we made adjustments and they're in red, particularly with fuel. For some reason, we're spending more money on fuel, and we intend to probably be spending more in the future. I hope it goes down someday soon, but so that's probably the biggest. Chemicals with the water department, police department with some electrical, and we had cleaning services adjustment up.
We'll just add it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I I move to approve the new threshold, I move to approve the fiscal year 2023 purchasing threshold guidelines as presented effective July 1, 2022.
Second from Storm. Discussion on the motion to approve. Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion?
Okay, next item, this is item 2, discussion action regarding bid for procurement for fiscal year 2020 and fiscal year 21 audit services. We went through the bid process. Kelly really did our financial officer did a fantastic job, and at least we got a bid, so.
Yes, we were fortunate that we got a bid, Budget Finance Committee reviewed it, and the appropriate bidder is, from that result is Perry and Associates for, fiscal 2020 and 21.
Yeah, and we went through the bid, the Budget and Finance Committee went through the bid, and we evaluated it on the form that was provided by the state.
And auditors are in very high demand right now, which is why it was the one bid.
We are fortunate we have such a high quality bid.
And I asked that, and what you can do is you can just pick 3 people off the list and send your bid request to them. I went back to the auditor's office and said, please send this to everyone. So our request for bid was sent to every available state auditor for the state of West Virginia. So we got one bid.
Yeah, so
All right.
we're lucky. So I move to award and contract
Perry and Associates.
Perry and Associates to perform fiscal year 20 and fiscal year 21 audit services as outlined in the proposal submitted for the RFP number 22-098.
Second.
We have a second from Storm. Discussion. The 21K, Debbie, is that for both 20 and 21 or 21K
Right.
for each?
For 20, hang on. So it's 9,000 for 2020 and 12,000 for 21. So together it's 21,000. Fiscal 21 will be a federal single audit. That will get used to that, folks. We are going to be having that for a while. Yeah.
The good news is that you get them because you've accepted a lot of grant money.
Money, Kevin.
So, yes.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion? Christian?
Number 3, discussion action regarding funding requests for the 4th of July music performance. This is to funding request up to $500 for the town performance as it's the same.
Lawrenceville,
Yeah.
Sam, yeah.
So at this event,
And typically this has been costed in City Hall contracted services, but really it is a musical performance, and so we're just moving it over to that line item, which is why it's coming to you.
move to approve up to $500 for the 4th of July town music performance at the town event from 906 Arts and Humanities.
Second on the motion. Second from Chris. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion?
Okay,
Christian?
all right. We'd really like 4th of July, so we've got another one. This is number 4, discussion action regarding funding request for 4th of July town event. This is more for, I believe, water and, is it
Water favors,
no,
watermelon.
watermelon and, just,
Two dads.
yeah, little
Two
things
dads.
for this event. And this is a very popular event. I've gone to it for years, and a lot of the town comes out for this one. Yeah, this is a beautiful event. Okay, I move to approve $200 for the 4th of July town event through Parks and Rec from 4112 Economic Development.
Second on the motion. Second from Laurel. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion? You're on a roll, Christian.
All right, keep on going.
All right, keep on.
Okay, discussion action regarding funding for, no, I got this. Oh, there it is, I'm out of sequence. Okay, discussion action regarding funding for town street beautification. I sent some of y'all a picture today of one of the beautification, the poles, the light poles on the sidewalk between High Street and Potomac Street. And they are succulents, they're all deep baskets, lots of earth, so they hopefully, and Larry is watering them 3 times a week. And hopefully they'll make it through the summer.
Succulents are a good choice.
Yes.
Conserve water well.
Yeah, they do. So we also have another one for a telephone pole. That's kind of the prototype. We have 3 poles in Lower Town that we're going to do this at. You've seen towns where they have these large baskets up in the air, and I have all the equipment for it, but we have to figure out how we're going to water it. So it's sitting till we figure out how we're going to water this thing. We do not have equipment to go 10 to 12 feet off the ground. That they have to, these have to be much higher. Larry can water the other ones with a water can, but these are physically a lot higher. So we have to figure out our next step before we proceed.
We attach a bucket to a drum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A thimble full of water. I can drop bombs. I guess I could drop a water balloon, right?
So how much money are you asking for, Chris?
I move that we fund $2,000, up to $2,000. I move that we fund the town beautification up to $2,000 from the fiscal year 2022 budget, street fund, account number 906.
Second on the motion. We have a second from Chris. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion? Okay.
Oh, yeah, please.
You need to take a drink of water before we go to the motion.
Yeah. We had a long meeting. I'm telling you, that last meeting, what was it, 2.5 hours?
3 hours.
3 hours.
3 hours.
Action packed too.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely action-packed. Okay, discussion action regarding the purchase of a new 2022 Ford Explorer police cruiser. It just came in recently. We have no idea when these cars are coming in due to the fact that there's parts issues with their electronics, their chips or whatever, but we did get it in. We're in the process of putting the decals on the car, but that's been done. And then they have to put in all the police equipment inside and lights on the vehicle. But right now
We
we
received the radio, we're waiting for the
radar.
The radar,
The radar, okay.
and once it comes, then they'll be able to transfer the CAD system over and install the other 2 pieces of equipment.
The town had originally approved, the council had originally approved $49,000 for the purchase, which would have included radio and the radar. Melissa and I checked that, so people say budget, the current prices of that.
So is this number look here, this 46, okay.
Why are we approving this on a separate agenda
Well-
when we approved it a few minutes ago?
It's kind of a formality, because it's really a big purchase, and singly, you should say
Specifically on
that
the
you
record.
are, and you're not, you're not coming in alone, and you're.
I'm not sliding it in.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, Chris.
I move to approve payment for the purchase of the 2022 Ford Explorer police cruiser in the amount of $46,287.69.
Second on the motion. Second from Storm. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion?
Okay, the next one, discussion action regarding the payment of the 2021 Ford Explorer police cruiser loan that we have.
Okay.
This is a loan we have with Bank of Charlestown. We are recommending that it loan be paid off.
Not right there, as of tomorrow.
Good. Move to approve to pay off the loan of the 2020 Ford Explorer police cruiser in the amount of $31,530.17 on June 14, 2022 to Bank of Charlestown from 976 Public Safety.
And this amount is within budget?
Yes.
Second on Storm. Discussion on that motion. Hearing none. All those in favor of that motion?
Okay. All right. Now I'm out of sequence again. Hopefully, I'm in here twice.
I may need to recuse myself from this item, this next item.
We're good. We're good on this. This is the, what Ed was talking about earlier. This is discussion action regarding funding the fiscal year 2022 Harpers Ferry Black Heritage Walking Tour brochure. Right here, we were talking about it earlier. So, I move to approve $500 from the 906 Arts and Humanities to fund the Harpers Ferry Black Heritage Walking Tour brochure reprint.
Second on the motion, second from Chris, discussion on the motion. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed?
Abstain?
Kevin made that decision.
Yeah.
You don't have a financial
Do you have
interest in
a
this.
Well, the
financial
board
person
member-
interest?
He helped write it.
Yeah, and I laid it out,
So
so.
you still don't have a financial interest in it, but
Okay.
I'll defer to my gentleman to my right.
I do not want to abdicate my duty to vote if it's not appropriate.
Can't really make that determination, but I can only advise.
But can you advise?
The advice is you shouldn't abstain unless you have a personal or financial interest
Yeah.
directly in the decision that's being made.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so we have a 6-0.
All right, I like it. I like it.
Are you done?
No, I'm not done. I gotta get going.
Just get warmed up.
Where are we going down? We're going down to
I'm
number.
gonna skip 4 of them to the end.
Okay.
Okay, number 13. I'm learning my Roman numerals here. They're getting high. I've never seen these before. This is 13. I wonder what 14 looks like. Okay. Update regarding
Laws melt.
the West Virginia DEP tributary team for storm concept plan.
Yes, have a number of updates on this. I'll be as brief as I can. So the MOU was signed by Mayor Vaughn and submitted to Region 9, as was the $5,000 matching funds commitment. And then just this morning, the kickoff meeting of the stormwater project took place, led by the Thrasher Group at the Bolivar Community Center. And Sam Rich of the Thrasher Group was attended by, from Harpers Ferry, Mayor Vaughn, Financial Officer Deb Kelly, Planning Commission member Paul Thomas, and myself. From Bolivar was Steve Garrity, and the National Historical Park had Superintendent Brandyberg, Mia Parsons, and Phil Rue. So Sam from Thrasher led the discussion about each town's needs and hopes for the project and the next steps. It was a good and cordial and open discussion. And we all provided Thrasher with the background on each of the town's needs and desires. And for Harpers Ferry, the things that we really emphasized was any solutions need to be compatible with historical appearances, that we really can't incur on street parking for our residents and visitors, since some of these stormwater solutions require space to install. And that we highlighted challenges including the steep terrain, and that many of the affected areas are not on public land. So it will involve some amount of coordination with private landowners and potentially trying to find funding sources to do these things in ways that they can also be done on private land. And the next steps will be Thrasher is going to collect some additional information from both towns and send around a more formal course of action, including a plan for getting stakeholder input. So it's moving forward and seems to be a very good working group.
Okay.
I rest.
You rest?
I rest.
Yeah, you need a glass of water now.
Yeah.
Well, Laurel's not far behind you because she's got it.
Hey.
Okay. Go ahead, Laurel.
So, Water Commission, we alerted the public that for the infrastructure project, the plant has to go to one filter, in which it takes twice as much time to produce the same amount of water. And that will be happening sometime between June 20th and June 27th is the latest I've heard. And it will not take more than, right this second, I'm trying to remember, was it 8 weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not supposed to take more than 8 weeks once they start that. Okay, and, so, but the thing is that we are actually in better shape for that, and I will go ahead and mention some things that came from the engineer's report this month, which is that the clear well on the site, which is a storage facility for processed water, is operational. It's been tested. They are using that. They have several times as much storage as they did before. And there's a pre-sedimentation basin in which the water can settle before it starts getting processed. That is also operational. And so basically what that does is when the water does go into the filter, it's cleaner, and the filters themselves don't need to be backwashed as much as if you think about using water to clear off the filter every now and then, because it collects sedimentation. It doesn't fill up as much, so we're actually using less water for backwash. So it's actually, all the work is put us in better shape for when we do go to one filter. The other, we are working on a job description for an administrator for, that is shared by the Waterworks and the town, and that is going to be a subject at our next Water Commission meeting. Almost finished with that. We'll be sending that out to others to review as well. The lead and copper survey has been printed, and we expect to mail that out on Wednesday in a nice blue envelope. So we've been telling people, be prepared to get a blue envelope in the mail with a return envelope, and please fill it out and stick it back in the mail in your return envelope within a week. And the new thing I just heard today was that instead of having to do 20 samples twice, we will probably only have to do 20 samples once, which reduces our cost from the firm that we are contemplating hiring to do the work. So that was good news.
And there's the time, they're granting us a bit of time. It's not like.
Yeah, it sounded like you said it's gonna be further August 1st or something.
Yeah, so after the one filter, after the membrane filter, our new filter is actually online and working. Which we're anticipating to be somewhere around August 1st, but that will be finished and we'll be using it. We have between 30 and 60 days to get those samples. So that pushes it into the end of August that we are actually collecting the samples. So we've got a little time to select our houses where they would be sampled. And the only way we can do that is to get the survey back, because it's information in that survey that we see how to sample the houses. Did that answer what you said? Yeah. Okay, so let's see. And I guess I should mention that it's not clear that all of the extra work and printing and postage is going to be paid for, except by us, because although West Virginia will get a share of the money for this project, federal money from EPA for this, West Virginia will get their fair share of federal money, but the most expensive cost would be replacing lead pipes. Well, we don't think we have any lead pipes. So we're not sure we were gonna get, we're really not sure whether we would get reimbursed for what we do spend on it, because it depends on how much other systems are gonna need that money. They might need it more than we do.
So we need to find like 2 lead pipes and that'll cover it. Rather not.
And also, the things that I learned in looking into some of that is that this testing and sampling is really part of what we should be doing on a regular basis anyway. So that's something that we apparently probably have in our budget on a regular basis. Some of the stuff I learned, so.
I believe it's also not just the pipe, but the solder as well.
Absolutely, that's
Okay, so looking at the list here, okay. The engineer's report, everything is going according to plan. I just mentioned basically half of the plant is now in operation. Half of the new plant is useful right now and is being used right now. Half of the new plant, so that's a good thing. And so, discussion and action on resolution number 15. Do you want to talk about that, Deb?
You want me to read it? Resolution number 15 of the town of Harpers Ferry approving invoices relating to construction and other services for the water project and authorizing payment thereof. Whereas the town of Harpers Ferry has reviewed the invoices attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference in relation to the construction of the water project funded by the United States Department of Agriculture, and finds as follows: that none of the items for which payment is proposed have been requested from another source, that each item for which the payment is proposed to be paid is or was necessary in connection with the project and constitutes the cost of the project. That each of such costs has been otherwise properly incurred, and payment for each of the items proposed is due and owing. Now therefore be it resolved by the town council of Harpers Ferry that the payment of the attached invoices as summarized below are hereby authorized and directed. Dawson Foreman, $18,720.65. Alvarez Contractors Incorporated, $380,948.55, for a total of $399,661.20. Adopted by the Council of Harpers Ferry meeting held the 13th day of June 2022.
I move to approve resolution 15 and payment for pay application number 14 as presented.
Second, that's a second from Chris. Discussion on the motion to approve. All those in favor of the motion? Thank you.
This is a big one. It's a big one.
Yeah. Oh, it's very exciting. It's rolling.
The next item is the FY 2022 budget revision.
I'll just make a summary here for this, and gonna review both the revision 3 for 2022 and 2023 together. So in the chart that's attached, I'll be referring to that. Both these budgets being proposed have been reviewed in detail by the Commission and by the Budget and Finance Group. So I'm going to summarize most impactful highlights. To orient yourself, the blue column on the left is our current budget. The yellow column reports actual revenues as of the end of March, actual expenses as of the end of April. The green column is the proposed fiscal 22 Vision 3. The pink column is proposed fiscal 23. On the income side, your first page, the water bill payment line has been reduced by about 5% as we continue to monitor the full fiscal year billing of the new rate. The ARPA income and the project soft cost reimbursement lines have been adjusted to coincide with timing of the Elks Farm water main replacement that will be billed in fiscal 23. The income in the project soft cost reimbursement line of $20,000 now represents a cushion for possible overruns on the Elks Farm project or other areas, such as the administrator position that has been discussed, should these costs not be able to be absorbed in the normal operating budget. The expense lines begin on page 2. Since we have applied for funding through the West Virginia Drinking Water Revolving Fund and congressionally directed spending funds to hopefully provide funding for the distribution system in fiscal 2023, some items that we had planned to begin in fiscal 23 have been postponed or scaled back until we learn the disposition of these requests. Maintenance of mains contracted services mostly is going to reflect the Elks Run water replacement. Plant salaries in both budgets are not representative of a typical year. They carry the 6-month wage compensation for single membrane operation and the temporary operator hired for this period of time. The COLA increase is included in fiscal '23. Office salaries include the COLA increase and water department contribution to the administrator position. Lab services include contracted services anticipated at this point for a copper and lead sampling requirement to be completed before September 30, 2022, as we thought a week ago. And we've added a line called distribution distribution system reserve at the bottom, which will carry a target of $66,530. This amount, in short, represents the interest rate of the loan for the water plant upgrade. In short, the interest rate of the loan for the water plant upgrade that we received at closing was lower than the interest rate that was planned. This reserve amount represents what we should be able to accumulate each year, assuming normal income and normal operating expenses. This reserve would be used towards funding future upgrades to our system. These two budgets represent the least normal budget cycles that we will experience in some time. So at this time, we do not anticipate reaching this goal for at least 2 years. And of course, as your expenses go up over time and inflation happens and all that kind of stuff, reaching that number is going to be less attainable in a perfect world. It was anticipated some time ago, but this is our target to help us with infrastructure and capital investments as time goes on. Any questions regarding the budget that you see?
Debbie, the distribution system reserve on that last page
Yes, sir.
of 66,259, where is that represented? Is that figure represented in here somewhere?
No.
Okay.
So
Kind of explain that to me.
So the interest rate for the loan of the water plant upgrade that we received when we closed the loan was lower than the interest rate that was planned. And this reserve amount represents what we should theoretically be able to accumulate each year, assuming
Oh, okay.
that income and operating. Got it?
Okay.
All right,
So you need approval for,
fiscal '22, revision 3, and then fiscal '23.
Move to approve fiscal year '22 Waterworks budget revision number 3 as presented.
second on the motion, second from Kristen. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Okay. Laura?
Okay, that was 22, right?
Yeah, we need
And so
23.
now that we have approval of the FY 2023 water reports budget, would you like to talk about that too, Deb?
I basically did, and what I reviewed, I did them together.
Yeah.
Are
Okay.
there any questions specific to that I can help anyone with?
I move to approve fiscal year 2023 Waterworks budget as presented.
Second on the motion, second from Chris. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion?
So, the Elks Run 8-inch water main replacement, that was bid, and we received 1 bid. And, the engineer has approved their bid. And, they say they can start anytime. And, so, I'll mention that, half of, they do have subcontractor that's gonna do the boring. But they have been approved by our engineer, and who's very pleased with their bid and with their company. So,
I was very pleased when I read the report from the engineer that the company that's doing it is, had a good experience in doing this kind of work. That is encouraging, and willing to work very closely with the National Park Service.
yes. And actually, when Chris asked him, have you worked for the National Park Service? The answer was, yes, we have, a lot.
Here, yeah.
So they have had experience with it.
And I'll just say, speaking of that, while we're just talking about this project, a big component of this is contracting for the archaeologist. And so I have been in touch with them. Once we get over this hurdle, probably, possibly, depending on the launch time of this, we may need to hold special to approve that contract services, just to be honest.
So that's a side contract.
Yeah, it's a side contract, it'll have to be part of our expenses with this, yes.
And just for everyone's information, this did go through our full bid process.
All right, so let's put a
I'll
motion on
make a
here, to
motion
approve
that-
165 plus
that-
pay.
Well, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, just.
Do you think?
Okay. I'll make a motion that we accept the bid from
Green-
Ridge
Green
Contractors.
Green Ridge Contractors in Hagerstown, that they gave us for the Elks Run 8-inch water main replacement project.
Second.
Do we need to specify the amount in the motion?
That's what I was just thinking. I think we need to include the amount in there, of 165,981. Is that what I have?
Yes.
So Laurel,
Okay, let me say it again.
just put the amount in there.
Okay. So, my motion is to approve the bid from Green Ridge Contractors in Hagerstown for the Elks Run 8-inch water main replacement for the price of $165,981.
Okay, thanks. A second on the motion.
Second.
Second from Storm. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion?
I did want to say that this is a very critical project. We have our current water line in the stream exposed to the elements.
Right.
So that's
So contractors, it's all wrong.
Yeah,
Great.
let's do it.
That's right.
Go. Okay.
All
Laura?
right, the next, we are considering, hiring out the water sampling for the lead and copper. However, because we just learned today that the number of samples will be half of what we thought it was gonna be, we'll have to get a new contract, so I recommend that we postpone, this, contract. Postpone the approval to the later date, which would be either a special town council meeting or even the next regular town council meeting.
And we got the extra time.
And we have the
Extra.
extra time to do that.
I'll second it. The motion, you mean, right?
No,
No?
I just,
Sounded good
No,
to
We
me.
don't need a motion.
All right.
Just
Well, I heard
post-
you can't, I was reading Robert's rules, you're not supposed to delay a motion, when you postpone, you have to put a date on it,
Right.
okay.
that's why I thought it was a
So,
motion.
I guess the date would be the next regular town council
Fine,
meeting,
then.
I'd just say no later than.
no later than,
I'd
right.
July 11th.
I would advise not doing a motion. If the consensus is to postpone, that way we can schedule a meeting for a later date,
Okay.
since we don't know right now when that will be.
I was just trying to be.
Okay. Right, so we're gonna postpone that. All right, that's all we have, so.
Okay, is Chris online?
Hey, Chris.
hey, Chris.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay, whoa, it's just doing something. Can you hear me now?
still hear you, yeah.
Yeah, I was still hearing you.
Sounds great.
Okay, there it goes again. All right, if you can hear me, I just wanted to say, Laura covered most of the stuff I was gonna talk about, but the putting the Said Basin online and putting the Clearwell were big game changers, as far as my ability to make water. For example, I normally, my normal run times, as far as how long I can run before I have to turn the pump off that goes to the tanks up at the Bolivar Heights, is at the most 50 minutes, or that's what it used to be. Today, I ran it for 6 hours, which if you can imagine, it's 6 times longer that I can make water without stopping and turning it off and on, which is slows us down. The other thing is the shed basin, because it removes so much dirt prior to going into the filters, allows us to do not only just a couple of backwashes, but we're talking about, I was having to do 2 backwashes a day, which takes approximately 2 hours of run time away from us. So that means time that I can't make water. And now it's probably, I do it maybe twice a week. So if you can imagine how much time that saves, I'm talking probably 10 hours of run time to 12 hours of run time per week, which is, a full day it's practically a full day. So we're gaining by leaps and bounds because of this. The quality of the water is drastically improved already. It's obviously going to improve even more with the new membrane filtration, and things are looking good. The start date for the going to 1 filter, still a little nervous, but only because we haven't done it. And so we'll see what it does. But I'm feeling more confident now with everything in place. Is June 27th. So that's a Monday, not this coming Monday, but the following Monday. And that's a set date as far as we know. We're counting on that date. The other thing is, on Wednesday we're going to be offline for half a day this coming Wednesday, or not this Wednesday, but the following Wednesday. We're going to be putting the high service pumps, which are the pumps that pump the water from the high or the clear well to the tanks on Bolivar Heights. And they're VFDs, which are variable frequency speed pumps, and what that's going to do. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the banging that you hear about up on Bolivar Heights that people complain about. It's going to eliminate all that. So all that's going to be gone, because there'll no more be. We're able to dial down the speed of the pumps down to 0, so we can go from 100 to 0, and slowly dial it down till where it's just till where it's nothing. So it's not going to create this banging effect. Right now, all we have to do is the capability of turning them, running them at full speed, and turning them off, and it's a sudden bang. So
It's great.
yeah, it's a big change. It should be a big relief to the people up on Prospect Lane. So that's all I got.
Any questions for Chris?
I do, I have one, Chris. I understand that the water plant, you have 2 lights that have been installed or gonna be installed.
Oh, yes. So we have lights that are almost football stadium size lights. So the whole area is lit up like a Christmas tree.
Okay, are they pointing down, or are they just?
No, they're pointing down. I've checked it from the road as you come up to make sure that there's no problem, but we keep them on at night, all night long for security reasons.
I'm just concerned about dark sky, even though it's not an ordinance here yet. Someday we may get that, but we would like to keep our lighting pointing down rather than spilling upward.
Well, to me, it's not shooting up into the sky, but why, have you heard
I
any
haven't been down
complaints?
to look at it, it's just that in town, like historic landmarks, when we talk to the property owners about lighting on their homes, new lighting on the outside of their house, we ask them to point them down, to have them covered on the top. So.
Oh,
the
well,
sky.
Yeah, again, we're trying to cover the whole area of that needs to be kept. Like, for example, we don't want any vandals to mess up our new stainless steel tank. So we're trying to cover the whole area. But if we need to do something about it, we'll do something about it. Surely. I don't want to mess with any ordinances.
It's not currently an
It's
ordinance.
not currently an
And that's not
ordinance,
an area
but
that's covered up.
It's in our
There's
comprehensive
a high
plan.
interest.
it's a high interest in the town that we do this, so.
Yeah,
I'll
there-
fix it if we get there.
I'll have to go there.
we can make adjustments on it. I mean, they're able to be pointed more down if we need to.
Any other questions for Chris?
No, it's exciting that, that you can now make water for 6 hours straight. If I tried that, I would be exhausted.
Right. Yeah, it frees me up too. So I'm allowed, I'm able to do other things, and yeah, it frees the operators up. When you're constantly, when you're chained to the plant, it makes it difficult to do other tasks. So it's a good thing. And
Thank you, Chris. Have a good
Yeah.
evening.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Yes. You're welcome.
ORC, Kevin?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, ORC, yeah.
Nothing new to report at this time, but we will need to schedule a meeting to discuss the special event vendor license item that we didn't have a chance to
And
meet about,
last month when this came up, Christian indicated interest, and I'm sure Pat Morris too, interest in attending that. So
Right.
we want to loop them in when we schedule the meeting.
The only concern there, of course, is we have to be careful with open governmental meetings requirements and having a quorum of council present, but we've worked around that before, so.
What would we be at, 3?
Is it free?
Yeah, okay, right.
We
Well,
have 3
with
committee
Jim,
members.
that would be 4.
Oh, Jim, oh, okay.
Oh,
We can work around it as long as we're very careful, but it's something we always have to keep in mind.
All right.
Okay. Parking,
Parking,
Christian?
there we go. Okay, I'm back on. Parking committee has relocated with Larry Waters 3 parking signs on Washington Street to move them further to the ends of the block with approval from the police chief, which gives us 3 additional parking spots. So that's good. And then hopefully this week or next, I'm hoping this Friday, I'll be working with Larry. We're going to try to relocate 3 mailboxes at the Women's Club. I got approval from all 3 property owners, and we're going to move it up the street a little bit and put in new poles, probably new poles, and give us an additional parking spot on Washington.
Great.
well,
That's where we're at.
Planning, Chris?
Yep, okay. What else did I forget?
No, I just wanted to,
I work with Melissa very closely in parking complaints, so I get them.
I just wanted, since this is public, I just wanted to put this out there. We are still getting a lot of complaints from people who are going to the park service parking lot and either using the QR code or using their system and purchasing the National Park Service 3-day parking pass and then parking on the street. And this is not a corporation issue, this is a Park Service doesn't have their signs very clear. So since it's out there in the public, I'm just trying to put it out that if you buy the 3-day permit, it does not cover street parking.
Can they sell more than their parking spots? Is that, do they put in like the number of the parking
I've
spots?
had one
Yeah.
lady who bought her
Oh my
pass
gosh.
and then walked to the bathroom, and when she came back up that way, she saw cones out. I think they put cones when it gets full so nobody else drives up in, and she thought her car was being blocked in, so she left and parked on the street because she didn't want to get trapped into the parking lot. So it's just a lot of, they don't understand that the parking lot and the street parking are not connected.
Correct.
And the Park Service has told Christian they're gonna change signs and they're gonna make it more clear, but those signs haven't been put up yet.
Okay, good. I was worried that they had been changed and people were still
Exactly.
complaining.
Now, they did install their kiosk,
Right.
which I think is probably helping a little bit because people actually have to go up there, and I think it does have more verbiage about it being that parking area. But it's at the entrance when they're coming up, that's where they had their
Right.
QR code and it was throwing everybody off.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
No, that's
Thank
fine.
you. It's good to know.
Okay, Chris, planning.
Okay, not much of a general report, because the specific items we're dealing with tonight were the main orders of business for our last meeting. But we also did make some progress on flowcharts and the permit process outline that we're hoping to circulate and get assistance for both council, volunteers, commissions, and applicants on the permits. The two items that we have, first off, planning approved the permit of Carol Carter for 699 Fillmore Street for pavers to be installed in the public right-of-way for their parking right in front of their house. I sent the application out earlier today, but the pavers are similar to what you have seen down on the lower Shipley School lot. And they also are not going to be a full parking area, but actually the two tire strips. So it will be, kind of minimal.
Semi-permeable.
Yes. So the Planning Commission approved that permit and recommended that town council, we sent it to town council to consider. So I guess I would move that the town council approve this permit for parking at 699 Fillmore Street.
Second from Storm, discussion on the motion
I got
to
a
approve.
discussion. I want to make sure that this stays in the public area for parking. This is not designated for a person to just put their own private cars on there. That, how you understand it? They're not gonna put up a fence, they're not gonna put up, this is public way.
There will be no fence.
I'd like to have this open in case somebody needs to park there. This is not for public parking this is for residents who park anywhere.
Mhm.
Sure.
So I guess is the question, was it discussed at all if, about putting up a sign or not putting up a sign, was that? ever-
No, there's no sign. I'm sure there's some consideration that
We have signs as you come into the Fillmore and on Ridge, there's signs saying it's residential parking permits required. See, if a resident can park on, even in front of my house, even though it's common courtesy, believe me, I've gotten involved in these parking things, and the parking committee. Usually in front of one's house, it's a courtesy to allow the owner to park in front of their house, but it's not guaranteed.
But it
That's
sounds
a
like,
parking spot. But this is several spots. I've looked at it. It can fit about 5 cars on this spot. So maybe the neighbor across the street can park on it if they have guests. And if they have guests, they need to have guest passes.
I recognize your concern and I agree with it. It was not discussed in our
Okay.
meeting.
So, okay,
Maybe
so,
Kevin can make them aware of that this is, I've seen people beginning to block some of these streets. I'm just seeing they're putting money into this street, this paving here.
Mhm.
And so my concern is that they might think that they own those parking spots.
although is it, in granting this, it is not granting any type of,
No exclusive use. And, I guess with the permit, we could make that, we could communicate that.
It is open parking. I have, when I had parking added for my house and I did the work with the gravel, Mayor Bishop in the day approved it with Kevin Hamilton, that it couldn't be permanent. And these blocks aren't permanent either, they can be pulled out of the ground, but it's when we cement or asphalt, that's permanent. So this, she's fine with the material, but it's just that you can't say that that's your parking.
Yeah.
um,
I can tell you that with the basically two households there, they're keeping spots pretty busy, but yeah, we can certainly communicate
Put
that.
that addition in the permit.
or I guess, then I'd like to amend the motion to read that issuance of permit does not confer exclusive use of the improved parking area that is on public property, public right of way. What is it?
Public right of way.
That is on the public right of way.
Second on the motion.
I'll second it.
Second from
Or
Christian.
is that a second for the amendment
For
or?
the amendment.
For the amendment? Mhm.
So we're voting on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment? Okay, now we go back to,
To a-
Motion.
The original motion, which was to approve the permit, the alteration of the public right of way in the application. Now, with the understanding that this will be communicated to them.
So that's been proposed and seconded, so. Or discussion.
for the original
Mhm.
motion. Any further discussion on the original motion? All those in favor of that motion? Okay.
And,
All right, could you, put that amended motion in the permit that I can endorse and you will endorse?
Yes.
I want to ask Storm, putting those blocks in, turf block or whatever they're called,
They're buried.
that is exactly what you call green.
Yes, that's
Right.
green
It's
infrastructure.
It's very good for stormwater management, so it is
Yes.
really a great thing.
Yes, in fact, I'm glad you brought it up, because I was going to say it would be great to communicate to them that, thank you for making this choice for the paving.
Well, I have grid in mind, but it's a different kind of grid.
Yeah, basically it will prevent that water that falls in that spot from just entering
If
the
you
street.
don't have
going down.
that something there, those tires and those trucks and cars will sink in over time, especially in the bad weather. It'll be a mess.
Kevin?
I just wanted to ask, do you have that amendment written out?
Yeah.
That you can send to me? Thank you. My mouse quit working right when we were discussing all that.
All right, Chris, you've got another item?
Yeah, the other item involved, gotta find my place here. Public safety concerns at 991 Putnam Street. And Karen and Louis Segazy attended our meeting, one on Zoom and one physically present. And they have expressed concern for unauthorized, and I put that in quotes, unauthorized vehicles, and also public urination on Putnam Street, on the dead end there. And Karen noted 9 separate instances of public urination on Putnam Street over the past 2 years. Louis noted as many as 120 cars per day along Franklin Street. He considers some of the issues a matter of safety and of as well as sanitation. They had proposed some barriers to non-residential traffic, and this was basically dismissed by Planning Commission. But we did make 3 recommendations for consideration by the town council. One is additional directional signage for tourists, not specifically in that neighborhood, but so that people know where to go. There was particular interest in directing folks who are interested in going to the Hilltop House. A second recommendation, additional restroom facilities and signage for existing facilities. I might mention that there was, I believe all of these incidences have taken place during the long closure of Appalachian Trail Conservancy, which is, I believe, the only public restroom in Upper Town.
Is it public?
I'm sorry?
Is it public?
Yeah,
Yes,
well,
there it
anybody
is.
can walk in
No,
there.
I didn't know that. Okay,
Yeah.
news to me. Okay.
So
Changes everything.
that may be a help in itself, that recent change for their reopening. And but we did recommend consideration of restroom facilities and signage for existing facilities, including CVB possibly. And the third recommendation was neighborhood watch signs in the area. And I know that we have had neighborhood watch signs on the past on East Ridge Street. They're kind of unobtrusive and might get the point in that particular block where folks are concerned. I think I would, talking with the town, with Pat Morris, she thought that might even be something that the office could handle administratively, although I would want to make sure that it's something that other residents on that block are wanting and agree with. On the other, I know that there's already been concern expressed about proliferation of signs, and I'm not sure that what we're talking about would involve additional signage, but maybe a little smarter and a little additional information on what we do have. So that's where we are.
And let me explain when I was on planning commission and what we had done at that time, and we took some of their ideas, and I think it helped alleviate some of the issues. Mayor Bishop at the time made up a sign called Downtown Roxbury. It's not correct, it should be Lower Town, but whatever. So we put that sign up at the corner in the park, right out here. And it with an arrow, and it points to that direction. And I believe that actually pulled off a lot of people. I assume some people were going straight. So that should, most people are looking for where the town, the town, which is where the activity is. So we'll send them to the mayor's direction down there. And then we fixed we had multiple dead end signs on Putnam. We made it one so it looks cleaner. We removed one of the signs. That's all we've done to date.
Mhm.
Chris, let me suggest that the 3 items you talked about are, are doable. But I think for us to make some decisions, we would need an exact plan.
Yeah,
What the sign is to say, where exactly are you going to be putting this sign, the size of the sign, the colors, so that we're a little bit more informed, that we just don't slap up another sign.
oh, certainly. Yeah, my idea, if you all like this, is to form a subcommittee of town council to look at the whole, and possibly town staff, to look at the whole issue of signage in Upper Town on Camp Hill, and come back with some recommendations.
I think that's something that would be of benefit generally, not just for that, but there are many different types of signs, and to look at it in a holistic way would be good.
And the restrooms particularly are one thing that I don't think have been considered in the past, but it would be nice for tourists to know that, yeah, you can drive down to the CBD and find a restroom open.
But, there was 9 incidents over 2 years. We know at least one of those years was COVID years. The National Park Service was closed. They closed their 2 restrooms, one at the train station, one by the bookstore. And then that left ATC.
Never sure.
They were shut just like the National Park Service. So that, and then the Hamilton's was closed. And they didn't want, and they still, even the businesses don't want people to come to their use their restroom unless they're a patron. I mean, ultimately, someday we need a restroom in our own town of
Yes,
Harpersburg.
instead of depending
No,
on.
we're not there yet.
But we're not there. This is years away.
But I do believe with judicious placement of signs, and I think a neighborhood watch sign, if there is an area that may be a problem, could help. But ultimately, there are public streets, but that, well, that's a question too. Is neighborhood watch something you need a formal designation to do, or is it just something?
Is it a group of people who are watching?
Well, there are formal programs, Neighborhood Watch.
Okay.
Yes.
We can make that of it.
Although
Sounds like we have one.
Yeah.
It's true. Although I don't think the signage on East Ridge, to my knowledge, there never was any kind of formal designation. I think it would just be a possible help to alert folks who are driving down to that dead end that, yes, there are residents here and they're watching you. So again, my hope would be that third one, the neighborhood watch, could be kind of handled administratively with town office.
Well, why don't you include that in the specific plan, exactly what specific signs, what are the signs specifically going to say, and where is the specific location for each sign? And include the neighborhood watching on that too, Chris.
Do we have any volunteers here that would work with me on that?
I guess I could be. I've been involved in signs, obviously with the parking signs all over town, and I work with Larry directly. And also the old administration, old council, we felt that Nancy Case had brought this up, and I think we should have a welcome sign to Harpersburg, which we do not have. The foundation is working on a sign down in Hog Alley. My wife's working on it, and that's a sign way down there to direct. It's like a map showing what's up the hill.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot up the hill, but people aren't aware of it. They think
Keep going.
Well, it's Bolivar. Bolivar's up there, and we have a lot of. They have a lot of things to see. But we don't have a sign, and Nancy had suggested having a joint Bolivar-Harpers Ferry sign. Bolivar this way, and Harpers Ferry that way, and a nice sign, not just on a stick, but something.
Not neon.
Wow.
I don't know,
I
but-
made the arch suggestion.
But and Storm, and he had the arch, and I like that, the arch a lot.
Processional.
Just put an arch over the road, but I've seen them in a lot of towns in their historic districts, and they have them.
Well, you want to serve on the committee?
I'll go on it.
Put him on, and Jim Jenkins, put him, because he's not here.
Yeah, that's a penalty, that's a penalty.
I also wondered if Pat, I know Pat put out an email
Pat should be on it.
recently.
Yeah.
All right,
So-
so you're gonna reach out to Jim, Christian, and Pat.
Should I make a motion of it then? Or
Well,
should we?
not if it's the task force and not a committee, then,
And Storm's in reserve if you need him.
yeah, I'm happy to opine.
Okay. All right, so what else you got, Chris? Is that it?
That is it.
Okay, great. Landmarks, Christian? You know that?
Storm's not on.
Guy.
Sorry.
No,
Just
it's
going.
the realm of
It's been a
unusual
long-
names, yes.
Yeah, sorry.
No, he's not.
He's not here, okay.
I don't have anything to report, that's fine.
We are still treading water on a lot of things. We're working on our welcome letter. We're still working on it, for new residents. The files in somewhere around here, maybe you have them, Evan, the files for Van Rist, historic files, we still need to resolve that. It's been like, seems like over a year. We also, we need to be a little quicker in getting out our approvals. Even though we're not approving anything, I meant with our recommendations or our advice to Board of Zoning Appeals. We need to be a little more timely on that for the residents.
All right, well done. Off the cuff like that, I was impressed.
Okay.
Christian. Number 5, organizations, other reports.
I might just mention that Canal Town Partnership will be having kind of an end of the season picnic in Williamsport this Wednesday at 11, and included in on that will be the superintendent of the CNO. So I'm anxious to get updates from her, particularly about the Byron Bridge and other things.
I was at the Merchants Association, and the mayor's been coming, but I was at the last one. The next meeting's gonna be at my house, and,
Right. Come on to that one.
so come on to that one, and we were doing them at different businesses in the town. The Merchants Association is beginning to really focus in on the Old Time Christmas, because that's the largest promotion we do, and they're gonna be working with the chief on closing some of the streets during Old Time Christmas, and we can make sure that we do it officially, and with the state.
Yep.
So I think that's it. They're doing they're very viable with the organization, and they seem to be growing, adding members, and so it's a good thing.
Great.
Anybody else for number 5?
Can I say something?
Sure.
Music on the Ridge
Oh,
turned out very, very nice. And, Mayor stopped by for a few minutes and got to witness our youngest performer.
Yeah.
His name is Kellen Little.
12.
He is 12 years old, and he was covering some really incredible music for his age.
Good vocal.
The other 4 acts were also stellar people. They all had their own style of music that they were doing, but it was a really good day for it. And, we're going to try to get Helen again for a Music in the Park event. So when we announce that, you all should really come by and check them out.
Thanks for listening. Number 6, any unfinished business? Number 7, any new business? Okay, go back to 4C, 9, 10, 11, and 12.
I mean, I could talk to that one a bit.
For subsection 2A, matters arising from the appointment, employment, retirement, promotion, transfer, demotion, disciplining, resignation, discharge, dismissal, or compensation of a public officer or employee. those types of discussions will be occurring. I am requesting that we go into executive session for 4C, 9, 10, 11, and 12.
So move.
Okay, do I have a second on the motion to go in? We have a second from Christian to go into executive session. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion. We are in executive session at 8:50 PM
You declare that we're out. And then the time.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, it's 9:50 PM. We are out of let me try this one more time. It is 9:50 PM, June 13th, 2022. We are out of executive session. We're in regular session.
Okay, Budget and Finance Chair will now address number 10. Oh, number 9, discussion action regarding the adoption of police department officer wage schedule will be discussed later. Next meeting, with the Budget and Finance, then the
Or C9.
or C9.
That's it.
Discussion, next item 10, discussion and action regarding wage increase for current police officers. I move to approve the police officer wage increases for the officers as presented effective July 1, 2022.
Second.
It's not just.
Yeah, I'm looking at, do we want to include the salary ranges or however you want to?
No,
we're gonna-
we're just
we're
going
gonna-
okay,
right
on
up to
this.
these
Yeah,
specific.
that's all we're doing.
Yes.
I got you. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? No, we have a second. Who was the
Yes,
second?
Chris.
Okay, Chris was, I knew that. All those in favor of the motion to approve?
Okay, number 11, discussion action regarding the approval of fiscal year 2023 COLA increase for all employees. I move to approve fiscal year 2023 COLA increase of 5% for all Harpers Ferry employees effective July 1, 2022.
Second on the motion, second from Chris. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion? 6-0. For the record, the previous motion for the salary increase was 6-0. For the record, 6-4-0 against. Okay, Christian.
Okay, next one is 12, discussion and action regarding approval of the continuous service recognition program. Okay, I move to approve the continuous service recognition program at $75 per year of service as presented, amended, effective July 1, 2022.
Starting after the third year of an employee's service, yeah.
And it's as presented in the program.
Oh, he said as presented, okay.
Second on the motion, second from, let's go with Storm. Any discussion on the motion to approve? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Yes, second on the motion to adjourn, Storm, second, any discussion on the motion, all those in favor? We are adjourned at 9:53 PM,